Hello, seventh grade. Welcome back. This is assuming that you already saw the first YouTube video of the strawberry extraction DNA experiment. So if you haven't done that, go back and like watch it because you need to have watched it to be able to understand this video. So here we go. Today we're going to go over what we know about DNA using that strawberry extraction video, and we're going to review those basic concepts of genetics through strawberries, and then we're going to be able to identify and match DNA pairs as well. So there's a lot of stuff that we have to do today. So anyway, you were supposed to watch this video. I'm not going to like show you the whole thing, right? Well, does it play? Yeah, it's not going to play. So yeah, go ahead and watch that video first before you do this. But anyway, here we go. So I'm also going to provide the link if you want to try the video, the strawberry DNA lab at your own house. It's really fun and easy. So go ahead and do that if you want to. The point of the video was that for us to realize that, you know, what DNA looks like and where it's found. So what we did with the strawberries was we kind of broke apart the cell walls of the plants, and then we further broke down the nucleus with that isopropyl alcohol. And because we were able to do that, we were able to extract all that DNA, that like stringy, like gooey stuff that came out was the DNA. So this is to show you that DNA is in all living things, even if they're already not necessarily living, like plants that you already picked, or like plants that you're about to eat, or like food that you're about to eat. There's DNA in all those living things. And so here are some questions that you're going to see in your do now. What does DNA look like? Well, it looked like goopy and stringy. What is DNA found in all living or once living cells? Yes, they are. And since strawberries are once living and we extracted DNA from them, what does this mean about the foods you eat? That means that all the food that you eat has DNA. And scientists are able to extract that DNA and even change that DNA so that sometimes our food and our like cattle and all types of like vegetables that we produce, actually we can genetically engineer them to become better versions of the original organism. But that's something that we're going to learn about next week. So that's just a heads up. Now, so let's go ahead and give ourselves two examples of traits that are expressed in this strawberry. So there's a lot of different genes and a lot of different chromosomes, but each organism has specific traits. So for example, this strawberry might be, our strawberries are red. They were sweet. They were fairly large, and they were definitely juicy. So those are just some examples of traits or characteristics that I can like easily say about my strawberry. All of these traits and characteristics are because that strawberry had specific DNA that was the blueprint of the strawberry. And that DNA told the strawberry like, hey, you're going to be a red, sweet, large, and juicy strawberry, because the DNA is the blueprint of the organism. All right, so just to review like what a genotype is, those traits that we saw in those strawberries, they are also transcribed in the strawberry's DNA as a genotype. So genotype again means the code. So whenever you see letters that look like a code, that's the genotype. So some examples of like genotypes that the strawberry could have are like these. Notice how they're letters, and the genotype would code for the phenotype or the physical characteristics, physical traits of that organism. So the difference between the genotype is that the genotype is code, and then the phenotype is the physical characteristics and physical traits. So looking out over here, here are like some images. Oops, let me go back. Here are like some images of like phenotypes of strawberries, right? Some of them are more yellowish, some of them are more reddish, some of them are like really dark red, etc., etc. Those are the physical traits. all of these physical traits can be transcribed to DNA. And this is actually how scientists analyze DNA and like look at what the DNA is made of. All those little letters that look like they're repeated over and over and over again are actually pieces of DNA that scientists have decoded. And all those little letters will tell you what the DNA is telling the organism. Like, for example, this part of the DNA could tell my strawberry, like, you're going to be very red. And then this part of the DNA, all those little letters will tell the strawberry, you're going to be very juicy. Or maybe this strawberry, you're going to be more pink than red. And this strawberry, you're going to be small and not very big. So just to show you that the phenotypes of the strawberry depend on the DNA. All right, and so that's basically what we're going to learn about today is like how to read DNA. But first, let me just tell you about sexual versus asexual reproduction in strawberries. So we already learned last week that with sexual reproduction, genes are passed on to offspring by both parents. So two parents pass some of their DNA to their offspring, so their children are very diverse and varied. So their children are going to look very different because of that type of reproduction. Now, there's also such thing as asexual reproduction, which we haven't learned about, but we're going to learn about today. And you're going to need to know this for your test. So asexual reproduction is when only one parent is involved. And that parent is basically going to make a clone of itself so that their kids or their offspring are exactly genetically, like exactly more or less the same. And that's the case in strawberries. We find strawberries, they're very special organisms because, all right, I'm back. So sorry guys, there were technical difficulties there. But anyway, asexual reproduction means that there's only one parent that creates a clone of itself so that the offspring is exactly genetically the same. So this is really interesting in strawberries because strawberries are one of like the few like well-known fruits that reproduces asexually. Strawberries don't actually need like a mom plant and a dad plant. What strawberries do is that one singular strawberry plant can shoot out this thing called a runner out of its own body, and out of that runner, a strawberry with like the exact same genetic makeup of the first strawberry is going to be exactly the same. So this has its pros and cons. So a pro, like one good thing about asexual reproduction is that since it requires only one parent, it's relatively like really easy. There's no need for pollination. There's no need for like a second plant to get involved. All it does is this one strawberry plant shoots out a runner, shoots out another runner, and then it can make two new strawberry plants all by itself, right? That was quick, that was easy. Now that's a pro. But a con or like a bad thing is that since all the strawberries have the same DNA, there is a possibility that all of them can go wrong. So like if this strawberry catches disease, since these strawberries have the same DNA, it's very likely that they'll also catch that same disease. So that means that there's no variation. That's not necessarily like the best situation because we want variation is really good because then good individuals and bad individuals can be made. But if there's no variation and something goes wrong, then all of these strawberries also go wrong, if that makes sense. But the whole point is that you make a clone out of one parent, so there's no genetic variation. All of the DNA is exactly the same from the parent to the offspring in terms of strawberries and their runners. All right, so let's do a quick check for understanding. Oh no, the question is missing. Well, which of these is a true statement? A, you would expect the strawberry offspring to be genetically identical to the parent. B, you would expect the strawberry offspring to have a combination of two different sets of different DNA. C, you would expect the offspring set to be genetically diverse from the parent plant. Or D, the offspring strawberry would have different mutations from the parent strawberry. And actually, A is not supposed to say hydra, it's supposed to say strawberry. That's a different type of plant that I did not do an experiment on. So, which of these is the true statement? The correct answer is A. So, since the strawberry reproduces asexually, the offspring is exactly genetically identical to the parent strawberry. And so basically that's what we like, the main key point that we need to learn about asexual reproduction is, again, you become, the clone is genetically identical to the parent. So let's just quickly review DNA since we did get to take a look at it earlier today in that video. DNA is in all living things and things that were recently deceased. In plants and animals, fungi, and all the different like kingdoms and domains that we covered, all of those organisms have DNA, even archaebacteria and eubacteria. You find your DNA inside of chromosomes. So chromosomes are basically really big X-shaped chunks of a bunch of DNA inside. And these chromosomes are found inside the nucleus of all cells. DNA is really important because it's the blueprint that contains all the instructions for the makeup of that strawberry. Today we are going to look very in depth at like what DNA is. So we're going to look at the structure and the function of DNA way more in depth. So in science, we like to describe DNA as a double helix because there's actually two strands. There's one side and there's a second side. So we count it as a double. We also say that the helix can be unzipped. It's like a twisted ladder, as you can see, you're like here are the rungs of a ladder, and then you twist it around. You can actually, like in DNA, unzip that DNA. And that's actually a really important process of how organisms divide into like multiple different cells, but we're not going to cover that today. Anyway, you can unzip DNA. And when we unzip DNA, we actually have found out that every single rung of the DNA ladder is actually a base pair of nucleotides. So what this is basically saying is that when you unzip DNA, there's two parts on each side of DNA. And it turns out that these parts are always pairs that DNA likes to pair off with each other. And this is important because different combinations and different sequences of these pairs tell your body what's going to happen. So for example, this little section of different pairs might tell you about the color of your eyes. And then this section might tell you the shape of your eyes. So these combinations that we're going to talk about are actually like very, very important to how that blueprint is constructed. There's 4 DNA base pairs, and yes, you do need to know this for like all of the rest of science starting from now and way into high school and college. There's 4 DNA base pairs called adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. Adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. So that's really hard to remember, especially because we are online now. So I made a really easy mnemonic for how you're going to remember the 4 base pairs. Always trust good cats. Always trust good cats. Adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. If you can remember these my little mnemonic, you're always going to remember the DNA base pairs. And what's the best part of this mnemonic is that it tells you which base matches with what. So in DNA, adenine always matches with thymine. Guanine always matches with cytosine. So what this means is that here we have an adenine on one side of DNA. Knowing always trust good cats, I can expect that this adenine is going to pair up with a thymine. And in this case, yes, it did. So my adenine and my thymine pair up to make one rung of the DNA ladder. They need to be paired up with each other or things can go pretty wrong. But adenine and thymine go together. Now, good cats. Guanine, which is this purple one, always is going to match with cytosine. And as you can see in this case of DNA, yes, guanine did match with cytosine. And if you keep going, they are always gonna, or like in the right circumstances, when DNA is made correctly, they are always going to match up like so. Adenine to thymine, guanine to cytosine. Those are the 4 DNA base pairs, and they like to pair up like this so that they can form that double helix structure. So here's just an example of that in real life. So scientists, biologists love to map out different genomes or like gene sequences and different organisms. And in fact, we just recently successfully mapped out the whole entire human genome. This is just an example of a strawberry genome. So for like these strawberries, they were able to map out parts of its DNA. And as you can see, if you look closely, it says guanine, adenine, guanine, 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 thymine, thymine, adenine. And so it uses those same 4 base pairs. Always trust good cats. And those are like just like the 4 like Legos, those like little tiny building blocks that are going to build huge amounts of DNA, like extremely long, very detailed like chunks of DNA throughout all different organisms, because all organisms need DNA. So with just like these 4 magical bases, you can construct all types of DNA. You just need to pair them correctly each time. So that's actually what we're going to like practice a lot today, is like seeing DNA sequences and pairing them up with the correct base pair. So how would I do that? I'm going to start you off with an example, and then you're going to have to like know how to do it for the rest of the lesson and for the test as well. So CFU, how would I match this strand of DNA to its base pair? And the DNA strand is AGCATG. Oh no, go back. There we go. All right, so there's 3 steps. Step 1 is to write always trust good cats. Step 2 is draw a line between trust and good. And then step 3 is you would match. So I'm going to do step 1. I'm going to write always trust good cats. Check. Step 2, draw a line between trust and good. That way I know what matches with what. And I might even underline this and draw like a little bridge so I know. And now I just need to match. So A matches with T, G matches with C, C matches with G, A matches with T, T matches with A, and then G matches with C. And I'm done. So if I ever saw that sequence in DNA, I would know that it would look something like this. And that sequence of DNA might code for a specific gene. Yay. All right, so now go ahead and try it yourself. Step 1, write always trust good cats on your paper, then draw a line between trust and good, and now match which of the complementary code for the following DNA sequence. All right, let's check our work together. So always trust good cats. Here we go. G matches with C, G matches with C, C, C matches with G, G, T matches with A matches with T, T matches with A, and C matches with G. And the correct answer for that would be A. Go ahead and try a CFE for yourself again. This time you're just gonna type it out. And again, follow your steps. All right, so step 1, always trust good cats. So let's go ahead and check it. We're gonna match. A matches with T, T matches with A, G, G, C, A, G, A. Thymine, adenine, guanine, guanine, cytosine, adenine, guanine, adenine. There you go. And yeah, so in real life, well, I guess I'm going to talk about this next week, but I just wanted to tell you that like the reason why we look at DNA from strawberries is because we're able to genetically modify a lot of things we eat. So scientists often will take DNA out of fruits, look at those like different little bases in their DNA, and even like change or mutate some of these bases to make maybe an even bigger and even better strawberry. But that's, again, we're going to learn about that next week. You can research that earlier if you want to. So just to summarize real quick, DNA is the genetic information that determines genotype and phenotype of all organisms. And DNA is bundled up into chromosomes, which are located in the nucleus. DNA is like a twisted ladder. And each rung of the ladder actually has a base pairing. And using always trust good cats, we know that adenine always matches with thymine and guanine always matches with cytosine. Our strawberry lab showed us that all living things have DNA, and that DNA shows color, size, and texture. And strawberries reproduce asexually, which means that they're going to basically make a clone of themselves, just one parent, and that clone is going to have the exact same genetic information as the parent clone. And that's it. Again, if you didn't watch the strawberry video, go ahead and check it out. You might see it on your test. Good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.